Some games look so good the moment you launch them that you actually pause for a second and think, wait, is this really a game? Or is this real life? And that's when you truly realize just how far graphics technology and gaming has come. In this video, we're going to take a look at 20 games with the most realistic graphics. If you're ready, let's get started. The Last of Us Part 2. Back in 2020, there were almost no games that could even come close to these visuals. Naughty Dog's motion-matching animation system allows character movements to instantly adapt to environmental conditions. When Ellie stumbles on a rock, she actually tries to regain her balance. When she walks in the rain, her clothes realistically get soaked. Fatigue shows directly on her face. And the crazy part, these aren't cutscene details. They're all happening in real-time gameplay. The lighting system built on a deferred renderer is what makes Seattle's cloudy skies feel so believable. Freckles on characters' faces, sweat on their foreheads, hair reacting to the wind. All of it was achieved on last-gen hardware. On top of that, the GPU-driven particle system significantly increases scene density. Even though the story is still debated, in my opinion, The Last of Us Part 2 is an absolute masterpiece when it comes to graphical technology.
Humanity is still in danger, still on the brink of extinction.
Death Stranding 2 on the beach. A lot of people see Death Stranding as just a delivery simulator, but trust me, it's way more than that, and visually, it's on another level. Using the Decium engine for the second time, Kojima Productions clearly knows exactly what they're doing now. Character facial animations are captured using advanced 4D scanning technology, meaning real actor performances are translated into the game with insane accuracy. Norman Reedus doesn't feel like a character, he feels like a real human being on screen. The dynamic day-night cycle and weather system keep the world alive. The same path can look completely different depending on the time of day. The open-world environments spanning Mexico and Australia showcase massive landscapes and incredible atmospheric depth. Even without ray tracing, the Decima engine produces some of the cleanest visuals in the industry, with excellent shadow quality, reflections, and lighting transitions. The PC version launched in March 2026 with ultra-wide support by Nixies, and honestly, I think this is a must-play just for the visuals alone.
What the? Did I step in shit?
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. From the moment I started playing, I felt like I was actually living in the medieval era. That's how real this game feels. CryEngine used to be the gold standard of graphics technology, and Warhorse Studios sticking with it was definitely the right call. Their heavily customized version of CryEngine 5 shows exactly what the engine is capable of. The SVOGI voxel-based global illumination system creates incredibly realistic lighting without relying on ray tracing. Torches cast dynamic shadows onto grass. Darkness naturally spreads across surfaces at night, and materials react physically to light. High-resolution textures are stored without heavy compression, which increases both visual quality and SSD demand. And surprisingly, the optimization is better than many games on this list. It runs well across a wide range of GPUs, recreating medieval Bohemia at this level of detail. Honestly, there's not much else you can compare it to. Bodycam. When the first gameplay clips of Bodycam hit the internet, people genuinely thought it couldn't be a real game. And here's the crazy part. It was made by two French developers, just 17 and 20 years old, using Unreal Engine 5 and Quixel Megascans. Bodycam is a tactical multiplayer experience from a Bodycam perspective, and everything, the field of view, lighting, textures, and shadows, is so detailed that some clips genuinely look like real-life footage. With the UE 5.5 update, full support for Lumen global illumination and virtual shadow maps pushed the visual quality even further, especially in shadow accuracy. Considering it's still in early access and developed by a very small team, what they've achieved is honestly insane. It's one of the purest examples of Unreal Engine 5's ability to simulate reality, and I think everyone should experience it at least once. The Callisto Protocol. It may not have reached the level of Dead Space, but visually, the Callisto Protocol makes you feel like you're genuinely trying to survive in real life. Developed by Striking Distance Studios, led by Dead Space creator Glenn Schofield, the game builds its entire visual identity around darkness. Even though it runs on Unreal Engine 4, the character models and dynamic lighting are incredibly strong. The game uses tight corridors and enclosed spaces to turn light and shadow into a core part of its atmosphere. And honestly, most of the tension comes from that visual design. Character faces are some of the most detailed in the genre, with real-time rendering of sweat, torn flesh, and deformation. Set in a prison facility on Callisto, one of Jupiter's moons, the game blends industrial environments with organic horror elements seamlessly. Surface reflections, the cold and heavy atmosphere of space, and dynamic lighting all add a physical weight to the scenes. Even if the gameplay and story didn't click for everyone, visually, I think it's absolutely top tier. That's the first 5 games done, but I have to say, the second half of this list gets even more interesting technically. One of the games coming up was released released back in 2013, and for years, no machine could run it at max settings. Some of you might even be seeing it for the first time. Let's keep going.
Odin's got tricks up his sleeve we haven't...
God of War Ragnarok. Santa Monica Studio built on top of the previous game in 2022 and expanded almost every single system. Honestly, this is one of the clearest examples of how to properly evolve a sequel. Released on both PS4 and PS5, the PS5 version especially showcases the true graphical power of the console. The aging details on Kratos' face, Atreus growing up, and the physical realism of every new character. It all represents the peak of character modeling for this series. Each of the 9 realms has its own unique visual identity. The water and stone textures of Svartalfheim, the golden architecture of Asgard, and the frozen surfaces of Helheim all feel like separate graphical showcases you can explore. And what's even more impressive, at least to me, is that the game runs at a stable 60 FPS in performance mode on PS5 without sacrificing visual quality. Lighting, especially in indoor environments, is incredibly well done. Managing to present such a large and diverse world with this level of visual consistency, a serious technical achievement.
Los Angeles, City of Angels.
Dead Island 2. This game went through years of delays, changed developers multiple times, and finally released in 2023. And honestly, I think what Dambuster Studios delivered visually is pretty impressive. The most talked about technical feature is the Flesh system, fully lacerative evisceration system for humanoids. Leaving the name aside, this system allows character bodies to react in real time with layered damage, something we hadn't really seen at this level before. On top of that, iconic Los Angeles locations like Hollywood Hills, Beverly Hills, and Bel Air are recreated in incredible detail. The way sunlight interacts with surfaces, the reflections in swimming pools, and the overall sunny LA atmosphere make the game feel vibrant and alive. Each area has its own lighting temperature, which adds even more depth. Despite its troubled development, I think the game absolutely delivered on its visual promises. Uncharted 4. A Thief's End. When I first saw this game back in 2016, I literally asked, is this even possible on a console? And honestly, I still kind of feel the same way. Naughty Dog once again redefined the visual bar for PS4. Character animations were way ahead of their time. Nathan Drake's facial expressions during dialogue scenes felt incredibly close to real actor performances. From dense, rainy jungles to dry landscapes filled with warm amber lighting, every environment has its own distinct visual language. Mood reacts physically, water effects change dynamically, and even when looking at distant landscapes from high elevations, the level of detail doesn't drop. Even during fast-paced movement sections like using the grappling hook, the environment quality never dips. The Madagascar and Italy sections were some of the most visually impressive sequences on consoles at the time. And here's the crazy part. It's been almost a decade, and it still looks amazing. Star Wars Battlefront 2. If you're a Star Wars fan and you haven't played this yet, I honestly think you're missing out, because when you first jump in, it genuinely feels like you're inside a Star Wars movie. DICE's Frostbite 3 engine immediately stands out with its cinematic quality. From the green fields of Naboo to the red salt plains of Cryte and the rainy platforms of Kamino, every environment recreates the Star Wars universe with incredible accuracy. The lighting system is especially impressive, both in how sunlight interacts with surfaces and how indoor artificial lighting is handled. Character models look like digital versions of the actual actors. Darth Maul and Kylo Ren, in particular, are incredibly faithful. Very few games manage to deliver both ground combat and space battles at the same visual quality level. Yes, the loot box controversy overshadowed the launch, but visually, it's honestly hard to criticize. Maintaining such a consistent visual identity across different planets and eras sets a real standard for the genre. In my opinion, it's still one of the most cinematic Star Wars games ever made. Demon's Souls. Back when everyone was talking about Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3, I always thought it was a bit strange that Demon's Souls wasn't getting as much attention, but I think it absolutely deserves it. Released in 2020 as a PS5 launch title, Bluepoint Games didn't just ask how the original PS3 version could look, they asked how it should look. And honestly, that mindset made all the difference. This remake was built completely from the ground up and includes ray tracing, delivering incredibly realistic lighting in cathedrals, caves, and dungeons. You can choose between 4K at 60 FPS or higher visual fidelity at 30 FPS. The stone textures of medieval architecture, the metallic reflections on armor and shields, and the massive scale of boss fights are all incredibly detailed. The dark color palette of Boletaria works perfectly with the lighting system, creating a balanced but intense atmosphere. In my opinion, this is one of the best examples of how a remake should be done. Even among first-generation PS5 titles, it still stands at the top visually, and it kind of teaches the entire industry how to properly handle a remake. Stalker 2, Heart of Chornobyl. This is definitely my favorite game on this list, because honestly, I don't think any game has impacted me this much before. Developed by Ukraine-based GSC Game World, this game went through years of delays. The result is technically complex, but visually bold, especially in how it uses Unreal Engine 5. The open world, set around the Chornobyl exclusion zone, uses the Lumen global illumination system to handle the day-night cycle incredibly well. Abandoned Soviet structures, decaying forests, radioactive fields, everything is crafted with photorealistic texture quality. Thanks to the nanite system, high-polygon assets can be displayed with insane detail even at close range. Yes, the launch was overshadowed by optimization issues, but in my opinion, when you look at its visual ambition, this is one of the boldest examples of UE5 applied to an open-world game. The atmospheric fog, radioactive cloud effects, and scattered light at night create a very unique horror aesthetic specific to this world. And from an art direction standpoint, I genuinely think Pripyat and its surroundings have never been recreated this convincingly before. Alan Wake 2. In 2023, Remedy pretty much ended the graphics debate with this game. And honestly, I don't think that's an exaggeration. Alan Wake 2 still holds the title as one of the most technically advanced visual experiences ever made, thanks to the Northlight engine and its full path tracing support. Path-traced indirect lighting, where light realistically bounces between surfaces in real time, makes rainy streets and surreal environments feel unbelievably real. With mesh shader technology, the game performs occlusion culling at near pixel-level precision, meaning anything outside your camera view isn't rendered. This allows for even more geometric detail where it actually matters. On top of that, NVIDIA DLSS 3.5 with ray reconstruction uses AI for denoising, pushing the visual quality to another level entirely. GPU-driven rain and wetness effects keep every scene feeling dynamic and alive. In my opinion, Northlight didn't just prove itself as Remedy's best engine, it proved itself as one of the most advanced engines in the entire industry. Final Fantasy XVI. With this game, Square Enix took the series into a much darker place both visually and thematically. Released in 2023 for PS5, Final Fantasy XVI fully embraces a dark fantasy tone, and you can feel that directly in its visual design. The Akon battles, massive clashes between elemental giants, are something we've never really seen at this scale before in a game. The sheer density of particle effects from fire and lightning to dark energy creates a visual spectacle that honestly deserves a spot on this list by itself. Character modeling, especially for Clive and the main cast, meets high PS5 standards in terms of facial detail. The environments, inspired by medieval European architecture and desert landscapes, maintain a consistent and believable aesthetic, while the performance mode runs at 60 FPS with decent visual quality. I personally think the best experience comes from the fidelity mode. Overall, this game feels like one of the boldest visual steps the series has ever taken. Crysis 3. Back in 2013, people were seriously asking, is there even a PC that can run this game? And honestly, even today, a lot of people still use it to test their systems at max settings. Crysis 3 pushed CryEngine 3 far beyond the hardware limits of its time, and for years, it was used as a benchmark, and rightfully so. The dome structures that turn New York into a giant rainforest, real-time volumetric fog, dynamic vegetation, and DX11 tessellation all added incredible geometric depth to surfaces. Water interacting with the ground, grass moving in the wind, cloth physics reacting naturally. All of these systems were running simultaneously. The global illumination system created believable lighting even in indoor environments. At the time, standard hardware genuinely struggled to run this game smoothly, and even today, at maximum settings, it still looks impressive. Driveclub. With Driveclub released in 2014 for PS4, Evolution Studios didn't just focus on car visuals, they pushed environmental detail to a level rarely seen in racing games. Each car consists of around 260,000 polygons, and the 3D CAD data used in development was taken directly from manufacturers. The night sky was created using NASA data, meaning you actually see real star constellations based on your in-game location. Road surfaces are built using individually placed materials like stones and asphalt. There's no repetitive texture tiling. But the most impressive part, in my opinion, is the dynamic weather system. Rain accumulates on the road in real time, evaporates or spreads depending on temperature, and interacts with humidity levels. Lighting changes dynamically, volumetric clouds cast shadows on the ground, and everything is simulated in real time. Distant landscapes are modeled up to 200 kilometers away, even accounting for the curvature of the Earth. Yes, the game had online issues at launch, but after updates it became one of the most visually impressive racing games ever made.
Welcome to Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora.
Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. In 2023, Ubisoft Massive pushed the Snowdrop engine to a completely different level with this game. And honestly, the first time you step into Pandora's jungle, it's kind of overwhelming in a good way. Your eyes almost struggle to process just how dense the vegetation is. In my opinion, this is one of the few games where you immediately stop and think, wait, is this really a game? Pandora's bioluminescent ecosystem isn't just for visual flair. Every leaf, every airflow, every glowing fungus effect shows just how heavily Snowdrop was customized for this world. At night, the glowing plants create their own ambient lighting, and when you realize that this is being calculated in real time, it becomes even more impressive. The world from high altitudes is especially stunning. While flying, the dense forests below and the distant cloud layers create an incredible sense of depth in a single frame. The atmospheric color palette and dense environmental geometry represent Snowdrop at its absolute peak. Sure, the game design sparks some debate, but in terms of visual presentation and engine usage, this is, in my opinion, one of the most ambitious open-world releases of its time. Killzone Shadowfall. Released in 2013 as a PS4 launch title, this game was basically the first real statement showing what the new console was capable of. The engine Guerrilla Games used here would later evolve into Decima, the same engine behind games like Stranding and Horizon Zero Dawn. So in a way, this game wasn't just a showcase, it was the birth of something much bigger. Targeting 1080p and 60 FPS, Killzone Shadowfall delivered some of the most realistic urban and natural environments seen on consoles at the time. The contrast between Helghan's destroyed dystopian cities and Vecta's bright green environments is incredibly well executed from a visual design perspective. The lighting system, especially during day-night transitions, is very impressive. Smoke effects, distant detail, and material quality were all ahead of their time. Guerrilla didn't just make a game here, they laid the foundation for one of the most important engines in modern gaming. It absolutely deserves a special place in PS4's visual history. Star Wars: Outlaws. In 2024, Ubisoft Massive delivered the first major open-world Star Wars experience, and I think what stands out the most here is how each planet feels visually unique. Thanks to the Snowdrop engine, every location has its own atmosphere and lighting identity. The sun-scorched deserts of Tatooine, the neon-lit nightlife of Cantonica, or the wide-open plains of Toshara, each one feels distinct in both color palette and material quality. K-Vess's character model and outfit details blend naturally with the environment, which adds to the immersion. Vehicles and ships are designed with a level of detail that's very close to film-quality visual effects. And honestly, just walking through neon-lit cities and watching how the lighting behaves is an experience on its own. Yes, the open-world design sparked some mixed reactions, but in terms of visual presentation and atmosphere, I think this game will be remembered as a benchmark for future Star Wars titles. Red Dead Redemption 2. Rockstar didn't just release a game in 2018, they built an entire world. And in my opinion, that's the best way to describe Red Dead Redemption 2. Its graphical achievement isn't about numbers, it's about the accumulation of countless small details. Arthur's hair and beard grow over time, horse fur reacts to cold weather, footprints in the snow stay there, and muddy roads remain muddy long after the rain stops. Every town has its own lighting tone and atmosphere. The weather system dynamically simulates sudden storms, cloudy sunsets, and snowy mornings independently. The game features over 1,000 hours of animation work, and you can feel that effort in every single movement. Rockstar's Rage engine doesn't just excel visually, it also dominates in physics and world simulation. From the texture of a snail shell to objects scattering after collisions, no detail feels overlooked. And honestly, even today, I don't think this game's graphical benchmark has truly been surpassed. Horizon Forbidden West. In 2022, Guerrilla Games redefined what the Decima engine could do. Horizon Forbidden West builds on the visual language of the first game, but deepens every single system. The underwater environments are, in my opinion, the purest graphical showcase in the entire game. Coral textures, light refraction underwater, living plant life, and the movement of machines beneath the surface. Everything is crafted at an incredibly high level. From tropical jungles to dry, semi-desert plateaus, every region carries its own unique color palette and atmosphere. Machine designs are especially impressive, blending mechanical and organic forms in a way that feels visually unique. And with every new machine type, the level of detail keeps getting better. The addition of gliding and climbing expands the game's vertical scale. When you look at the world from above, it genuinely feels massive and full of detail. Decima's material system handles surface reactions with incredible variety. And with this game, Guerrilla once again proves that they are one of the strongest studios in the industry when it comes to both graphics and world design.